stand, recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and remain standing for a moment of silence. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Michelle, the Open Public Meeting Act announcement.
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Here.
Mr. Ferrante?
Here.
Mrs. Labow?
Here.
Mr. Perkins?
Here.
Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Nicastro?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Mr. Maney is away on vacation. I'd also like to welcome Sean, our business administrator, the mayor, Jeff, our attorney, and Sherry, our CFO, is here as well. First item for discussion is going to be the mayor's 2014 budget presentation. Sherry's going to make along with Jill, I believe.
Jill's taking care of the lights.
She's taking care of the lights.
Yeah, she doesn't want any responsibility beyond the lights.
I don't blame her.
Unless we're giving her more money in recreation, then she's good.
Stay with the lights.
Stay with the lights, okay. I don't have my glasses to see up close because I'm getting old, so if it takes me a minute to read something, just bear with me, okay?
Right there with you, sister.
Right there with you. All right, so I was thinking before I came here tonight that I do this presentation like once a year, and I tell you, I feel like I'm here like every 3 months. And for those of you who've been on the council, you probably feel like the same because it seems like we're constantly working on the budget, right? Like we never get beyond it. I'm here tonight to do a summary of Rob's budget. You got it a couple of weeks ago, but we just like to do the presentation to give the public, obviously as well as the council, a heads up on what we're proposing. Has anybody looked at it at this point? Yeah, you have. Okay. So I'm not going to get into any real big nuances, just sort of going to go over some highlights. I know we have a new council person up on board, so I just want to go over the process really quick. We start working on the budget in September. We send out the budget requests to all the boards, the departments, the organizations. They send them back to us. We have meetings with them in November. From those meetings, we prepare the mayor's budget and usually get it second week of January has been the norm. I looked at the division's timeline for when we should introduce, and we need to introduce by March 11th. We can actually extend it if we do a resolution to do that, but since Rob's actually proposing a decrease, I don't know that we really need to do that at this point. But so my thinking is March 11th is what we should go with. Good news, we're actually eligible for a local budget exam this year, so we don't have to have the division sign off on the budget. I just have to certify that I approved it. So the time frame to actually get it adopted should be a little bit quicker this year. Just really quick, I want to go over some of the laws that affect the budget. We have the property tax levy cap, which we've had for a number of years. That increases what we can raise property taxes by to 2% from one year to the next. We also have our spending cap, which restricts what we can increase our spending from one year to the next. Believe it or not, my estimates show that we're about 3.1 million under the appropriation cap. The reason for that is because we've also been banking money from one year to the next. So it's not like this budget alone is 3.1 million under. This is like accumulation of a few years. And we're 1.6 million under the property tax cap. So there's a number of municipalities that I think would switch with us in a heartbeat. Chapter 78 will result in savings to the township and health benefits. We're actually going to save $386,000 from that law in this year's budget. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, what it does is mandate that employees contribute to their health insurance based on the health insurance that they actually select. Pension reform has resulted in a decrease in our appropriation of $7,847. And while that number itself is not significant, it actually is because it's a decrease. And normally we've had increases and they've been pretty substantial increases. So I wanted to just mention the fact that we actually do have a decrease. Okay. Rob's proposed budget reflects an increase in overall expenses by only $256,000, or actually less than 1%. Our projected municipal tax rate is .607 as compared to .608 in 2013. And we're proposing a decrease in municipal taxes of $3.12 for a home assessed at about almost $312,000. Our rateable base is expected to grow by about 4.5 million, which is great news for us. Obviously, we did well in added assessments last year, so that helped. We are not proposing any increase to the sanitation district tax, and we have no increase proposed for water and sewer rates. We had done the water and sewer study and presented that a couple of months ago, so that's not new news, but I just wanted to sort of mention it again. One tax point for us this year is $299,000 or $29. So if you want to reduce taxes by $29, you'd need to increase revenues by $290,000 or reduce expenses by $290,000. Or obviously you could do a combination of both. This I thought was interesting when I did this. I think you'll find it too. I wanted to see how this budget compared to previous year's budgets. The average annual increase from 99 to 2013 was $69 or 5.37%. So clearly we are well under that for this year's budget. The other thing I just want to quickly mention before I go on, those of you who've been around for a while know that I always compare back to 2000. The reason I do that is because that's the year that I started. So if you see everything, like my spreadsheets, my charts, everything always goes back to 2000. Don't really have to spend a lot of time on this, but I just wanted to do an analysis of the ratables. You can see for the last 5 years we've been pretty consistent, so that's great news for us. The tax pie. Everybody always complains to the municipality about taxes, but I like to always do this chart because you can see that 68% is actually related to the school, and our piece is 18%. Okay, this is definitely our best news story, I think, which is our surplus balance. Rob talked a little bit about this in the speech that he gave at the last meeting. So some of this you've already heard, but our surplus balance at the end of last year was almost $4 million. We were like just so close, $40,000. And we were up $1,080,000 from where we were the year before. So it's actually a 37% increase from the beginning to the end of 2013, and I haven't seen any kind of increase like that in the time that I've been here. So what helped surplus? Why was there such an increase? Obviously, we talked about our tax collection rate is the highest that it's been in the time that I've been here. It was 98.94. We had, thanks to Sean's hard work, we got all that money back, or a lot of money back from Superstorm Sandy. We had higher than anticipated added assessments, which we talked about before. Building revenue was significantly higher, and we also had pretty decent increase in general revenues. Okay, again, another chart, surplus. We were going down for a little while. Obviously now you can see we're sort of heading back up, which again is also a good news story. All right, I want to spend some time just going over some of the significant changes on the revenue side and some of the significant changes on the expense side. Again, I'm not going to go over every line item. I just want to give you a general idea of why we are where we are. Surplus. We increased what we use for surplus by $315,000 based upon where we see surplus regenerating at the end of this year. I have an analysis in my book so you can actually take a look at it. We were comfortable to use more money in Rob's budget. Delinquent taxes, not really a surprise because the tax collection rate was so high. Obviously, we have a less amount of money to collect from taxes that are delinquent at the end of last year, so that's why that dropped. Local revenues, we've increased that $155,000. Municipal court revenues are starting to go up again. Tower rental revenue is going up, and we have the new fire inspection agreement with Hackettstown that's coming through for this year. Special revenue items, We decreased that by $126,000. The bulk of that is because we have less money in the Open Space Trust Fund, obviously, than we used to have because we've been taking money for debt service for a number of years now. So because the fund is getting lower, we're reducing what we're using from open space by $100,000. Construction revenue, we've increased it $145,000 to be more consistent with the past couple years of collections that we've had, and also based on anticipated development in 2014. Tax revenues, believe it or not, the amount of money that we're raising from taxes is actually going down by little over $16,000. Okay. I often get the question, what is our revenue base made of? So if you look at my chart, you can see, to no surprise, taxes make up 69% of the revenue that we generate. The next largest piece, actually for us this year, is going to be surplus, and then state aid. I expect that state aid's going to stay the same. I haven't heard anything about it dropping, so I think our numbers are pretty right on. Okay, so let me move on to the expenditure side. Our salaries and wages are going up by $386,000. As you know, we have set contracts with the unions, so that the increase is actually reflected in that $386,000 number. The library, their third of a mil requirement dropped by about $35,000. Pensions, we already talked about that, decreased $7,847. Debt service, on a good note, decreased almost $300,000. The reason for that is because we do have aggressive payback schedules. That's what we've done since I've been here, and we're actually starting to pay some debt off, so we're seeing some reward from that. Utilities went down $15,000, primarily from savings that we have for electric. Departmental OE, we sort of looked at that and felt the need to increase in a couple of places. We've been consistently cutting the departmental budgets over time, and we're sort of at the point where we needed to look at restoring some. The big part of that $174,000 is in roads. We needed to put back money for storm, and we needed to put back money for asphalt. Capital, we have a proposed capital plan in the capital section of the budget. We're proposing an increase of $32,000. Depending upon what you decide you want to fund and what you don't, that may or may not change. Insurance, we increased by $130,000. The main reason insurance is going up, because obviously we've had a lot of people retiring the last few years. So now we're covering them in retirement because they're retiring with retiree benefits. And then when we replace, obviously, we're also covering that person. So it's sort of like we have dual coverage in a lot of cases now. Accumulated absence trust, I reduced that by $150,000. We actually had $57,000 left over from last year going into this year, and we expect that the retirements are going to be pretty quiet this year. The budget, no surprise, salary makes up 38% of the budget. We deliver our service with people, so obviously it makes sense that salaries are going to be the largest part of our budget. The next largest piece is debt service. Hopefully, as time goes on, that will drop a little bit. Okay. Moving into 2014. We have a lot of pluses on our side. We have $83,000 on hand for tax appeals that may come through. We don't have a lot outstanding, but I know there's a few coming through, so the fact that we have money on hand is a great thing. I have $111,000 in unemployment trust for any unemployment claims that may come through. We still have a little bit of money left in our snow trust, $11,643, plus we're putting an additional $105,000 in the 2014 budget. And we have $57,000 in our accumulated absence trust for retirements moving into 14, on top of the money that I'm appropriating, obviously, in this year's budget. Most importantly, we're leaving $1.6 million remaining in surplus. When I went back and I looked at it, we actually have used the least amount of surplus in my entire time that I've been here, which is a good thing. So before I get to any questions you may have, we just want to thank everyone, obviously, for their help, all the departments, all the boards, all the committees, the volunteer groups that we deal with for assisting us in putting together Rob's budget for this year. Anyone have any questions? Alex?
On the surplus question, looks like we're trying to move up to the $5 million mark in surplus. It looks like that's at 2 periods. We were close to that. Why do we want?
Well, we're close to 4 million, not 5 million.
Yeah,
We're at
but
three-
when we're looking at the chart, it looks like at two.
Yeah, a few
different
years
time-
back when our added assessments were huge.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is there a target that we're trying to reach to stay at, and why do we want to 4 million versus 3 million?
I can answer that if you want, Sharon.
Rob.
From my perspective, if you don't mind, Alex.
No.
It's not a question of how much surplus we have. It's a question of how much do we have to spend to bring the budget down to either flat or go lower. What we're looking at is an overall trend going forward, so that we smooth out the peaks and valleys. As we see the trend in terms of what's happening in surplus, we may readjust in terms of where we're going next year. For instance, if we see that the trend in surplus is going up, we're going to have a bigger decrease next year. If we see that the trend is decreasing, we're going to use the money appropriately in years 2, 3, and 4 from now to keep the budget at a flat rate so that we're not increasing. The use of surplus is not a question of how much we have there, but ultimately how much do we need in the forecast of where we're going to maintain a, basically in this situation, a flat budget. And what I'm seeing at this point may change next year, but I'm hopeful that we will see flat budgets because of where our surplus is this year in the next 3 to 4 years in terms of no increases to the taxpayer. We could have used more surplus this year and reduced the budget, but it would have led to a situation where likely we wouldn't be able to go flat in the years coming forward. So it is a budgeting tool. It really shouldn't be called surplus. It should be called something else, because there's always that misnomer that it's extra money. It's not. It's really part of how we manage our budgets and how we prepare going forward year after year after year. I don't know if you have anything to add, Sherry.
No, I think your point about avoiding the peaks and valleys is really the biggest comment that you made. You know, a lot of towns, if they see that they have a lot of surplus in 1 year, Alex, they'll use it to decrease taxes. And then they turn around and they don't regenerate it, and they wind up having a substantial tax increase in the next year. What's the point? I mean, the goal is to try to eliminate the peaks and valleys so that you keep it, you know, at a constant level. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
Anyone else?
I have nothing
I was gonna say, for the surplus, for instance, with Superstorm Sandy, if we didn't have the surplus, we wouldn't have had the money to pay what we needed to pay. And if the government hadn't reimbursed us, it would have been a whole different picture this year. So
You're right, Colleen.
that's what you have it for. It's to take care of emergencies, and you want to keep it at that, you know, that level, which they say even on your own personal budget, some of the financial experts, they'll say it's good to have 6 months worth of your monthly bills in the bank. So if anything happens, you've got the money there. And that's a goal of mine right now. I've only got 2 months, but someday I'm going to have 6 months in surplus. That's my own personal surpluses. But it's the way I look at it, it's something catastrophic happens, you've got the money to fall back on. If it doesn't, you carry it over. So that's
Mayor?
basically a simple explanation.
I think the overall picture that Sherry has painted is a very positive financial picture going forward for years to come in Mount Olive. With what I see coming on in terms of rateable growth in the next 2 or 3 years, if Markland Farms happens, Sinmoff happens, you have Siemens coming online. We can look each year at the analysis in terms of where we are in surplus. And if we start to see growth beyond where we are, we can readjust our analysis on a year-to-year basis to say, okay, we're holding too much surplus based upon where we see going years 3, 4, 5 out. And it's time to start decreasing taxes greater. I can tell you that the general thought, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, from a financial management perspective on the municipal side, is that you should never decrease taxes. because of the fact that you don't know what, as Colleen said, what the contingencies are that are coming up. I can tell you, I was speaking to another municipality, they're doing a $150 increase this year on the municipal side because they got hit with a $400,000 loss in revenue. They got hit with a lawsuit that cost them $270,000, and they got hit with some other fee which caused them $300,000 increase in their budget. Now they're $1 million over where they need to be. Without the ability to offset that with sound financial planning, you're looking at a large tax increase. We're very good where we are. I would love to reduce it further. It's not the prudent thing to do this year. We need to see how the trend is going, where we're going after that in terms of additional ratables, because I can tell you that at some point the ratable gravy train is going to stop. We have things in the pipeline right now, but we're also in the highlands. So at some point in time, things which have been approved in the past will not be being approved in the future. At that point, we're going to have a reduction in terms of our construction fees, and we're going to have a reduction in terms of our added ratables during the course of the year. That's going to be a problematic time. So we can all make great hay and say, you know what, we're going to reduce taxes by $50 per household, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's not sound financial planning. We've got to decrease this year, and we will keep that as long as we can without having to raise taxes, and at the same time looking at where we're going in the future to make a determination as to what the appropriate level of use of surplus is.
Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Sherry, thank you for the presentation. As always, very informative, especially for all of us up here, even us that have gone through it with you so many times. I'd like to applaud at this time the mayor and his staff. Rob, I've been up here now going to my 13th year, and you and I started up here, and one of our goals was always to pay down debt. And I am very pleasantly happy and almost ecstatic to see that the way our debt service has depleted over the years because of our aggressive pay down schedule. Goal in this township, and we've seen all the hype, and rightly so, from our county freeholders and from other municipalities throughout the state, as well as other places throughout the United States that have talked about 0% tax increases. And I'm proud to say, as a resident of Mount Olive and also as a legislator here, that we are part of the group that will have the 0% tax increase to the township of Mount Olive without one single reduction in personnel this year, where we tried to balance the budgets on the backs of employees a few years ago, and that wasn't good. That wasn't the right thing to do. Now we're in much better financial shape, thanks to the mayor and thanks to the administration. The economy is beginning to move forward, and it bodes well for our future. Thank you.
You left out the council, because it is the council ultimately which makes the decision on a lot of issues to spend. We're seeing some issues that come up as we start dealing with the capital budget, which I've put in. And ultimately, there may be things in the capital budget as we move forward that you may not want to spend, but I caution you to cut money out of the capital budget as we go forward. Because that capital budget will allow us to do different things in the case of emergencies that may come forward during the course of the year. There's a distinction between having 5% in our capital budget and actually spending the money to undertake a particular capital project. So what I'm saying ultimately is I don't think that's the place, if you're going to cut this budget, where you want to take it from. I will not spend any money on capital projects, nor could I without council approval. So each particular capital item that is in the budget would have to be determined by the council. We're obviously all looking at trying to keep taxes as low as possible at this point.
Okay.
I just want to add on to what Ray was saying, the thing, and I don't know, this is my third term, 10 years, I guess. I'm trying to think how long I've been here. And it's like really fantastic to see a budget like this, and it's no smokes and mirrors or anything like that. I mean, it's really, not that you've done anything like that in the past, but there's been, different towns or whatever and different councils, administration, and it's just like, it's real. It's not fake. It's absolutely real, substantial, tangible, and I just thank you very much, because that's what I like to see. I don't like the fake stuff that comes back to get you later on, like when Ray was saying, when we reduced some employees in the past, nobody's thought how much is going to cost us in unemployment. I think they were trying to save $340,000 in salaries and spent $250,000 in unemployment fees. So where did you save? You don't save. You got to be real about it. And I thank you and the mayor and Mr. Canning and all the staff for doing such a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks to the residents for paying their taxes on time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
That helped too, yeah.
Anyone else? If not, thank you again for always a great job.
Thanks,
And
Joe.
you make it very simple and easy to understand, which I love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. LeBeau, 2014 TNR fund.
Actually, it's perfect timing because going on with the budget, last year during the budget period, Mr. Perkins with the Health Department had recommended money to be put in for TNR to help offset some of the costs that they spend on the spay and neutering and, with the residents for the cats, which they had saved the township approximately between $15,000 and $20,000 by starting this program. So last year with the hoarding case, I think it was $5,000 had been set aside. They actually spent the entire $5,000 went to treat all those 31 cats from that hoarding situation. And so they're in a bit of a crunch right now because our big fundraiser doesn't come about till the spring. So the question is, Sherry said we do have the money set aside, and they're just asking for permission. And usually they would start giving their vet receipts once the budget's approved. Sherry said the money's there now if they want to start submitting the veterinary bills because they're reboostering the cats right now. It's not a lot of money. They're talking maybe $200-300 a month, if that, and the vet lets them, bill once a month. So it would just be a matter of starting that right now instead of when the budget is approved. So we just need a straw poll. Sherry?
Yeah, I mean, we have it in the budget,
Money's been in
obviously,
the
but
budget.
since you haven't talked about the budget, I'd
Right.
suggest to Colleen that she just get approval from everyone that you're okay with the expenditure so that we can, start processing bills.
If we're going to continue as we did last year.
It's already in the budget.
It's already in the budget, and unless we were going to actively remove it, if they can begin now, so.
Mr. Perkins?
Sherry, are we looking to increase the amount of funding for the TNR group in the 2014 budget?
We had 5,000 right in the 2013 budget, and I believe Frank put in 7,500 in the 2014 budget.
That's what's in.
Yeah, that's what's in.
Is there a reason that we needed to increase? And again, I have no issue.
It was
the minimum.
It was simply an analysis by Frank in terms of what was required on the
Of the
efforts of
running?
their group, and I didn't have any problem with it, so that's what's in the budget.
All right, then, I think we
And
ought to
it's only used for cats that are Mount Olive cats. Specifically, it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to use all of that money. Matter of fact, if it hadn't been for that hoarding case this past year, they wouldn't have even used what they used. So, but in case, if God forbid, there's another situation like that, because what happened was those cats, they had respiratory, they all had mites, they had all kinds of really bad health issues, and that's why that ended up. And they're down to only.
Sounds like my kids.
Yeah. Sounds like me lately. I can't seem to get rid of this cold. And they're down to 5 cats left out of all of those cats. And there was other animals actually on those premises that Frank was able to find homes for. So hopefully we don't have a situation like that again, but you never know. Nobody expected. And Frank, when he first went there, I thought there was a dozen cats, and every time he went in there was more and more and more. They were like hiding. It just was like it was a bad situation.
So what we need to just straw poll, what do you need to?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as a majority are okay with it.
Majority.
I mean,
Anyone have-
Colleen made a point. There is 7,500 in. It doesn't
Right.
mean we have to spend 7,500.
Right.
Does anyone have any problems with that, or we?
No, and again, my only issue, Mr. Vice President, and Colleen, as the liaison, is that we have about 20 some odd cats that are severely overdue for revaccination, and I know the group.
Yeah, that's what they're working on, yeah.
And that's something that needs to be a priority. You know, the TNR was trap, neuter, return, and the basis of my getting the board to agree last year for the $5,000 that we put in was that the brunt of the money would go to help these volunteers. And when we have issues like a hoarding issue, which takes a lot of the time away from the volunteers because they have to go there, that's an anomaly. And I understand that. It's just, I think going forward, you know, Colleen, if you work together with Council Vice President, who's
Yeah.
the liaison for the Health Department, you guys, we just need to make sure that that continues to move. But
Yeah,
I have no
and they are,
problem approving, you know, the monies as a straw poll. I have no issue with that.
Yeah, they work on that all the time. They're working diligently to get the rest of the cats boosted. The other thing they try to focus on also is a cat that's already been boosted. And if you've come across cats that have not been treated at all, have absolutely no rabies, you really, that's more of a health issue. You want to focus on getting that, and then they go back to working on retrapping the other ones. And the more volunteers that come on, and you know, it's easier to get everything done. But I think they're actually better off right now. They've got a few more past couple weeks, so.
I mean, you know, we're doing well in the program. As I said to Ms. Lerner when she was here, I have to applaud it. I mean, it just becomes an issue, and Joe, you understand that now that you're sitting as the chair on the board. When we look at cats that were originally vaccinated and due in 2011, so you know they only got their first shot, which is only good for a year. Now, you know that titer still can't be in the system after 3 years. That just gets the ire, you know, of the health
Yeah.
officials, and they begin to like, oh my God, oh my God. But the group has done a phenomenal job. As far as this hoarding issue, again, it was an anomaly. I have no problem giving a straw approval to let the group get some money to help reimburse them so they can continue to go forward. Otherwise, they're gonna sit here to what, April?
Yeah.
When you next fundraiser?
May, we're scheduling for May, but they did have some people came forward to get us over the last couple of weeks, but the focus is to, they want to make sure they get all these, make sure we don't have any new kittens coming through or anything else. so.
Mayor, did you have something else?
Yeah, just wanted to let the record reflect that in the last 3 years, since TNR has come on, our bill to Golub Animal Hospital has been reduced from approximately $18,000 to $10,000 per year. So I don't know that it's all necessarily related to TNR, but I certainly think that a large percentage of it is. So I would recommend that we move forward, allowing them to spend the $7,500 with raised concerns expressed to them in terms of the fact that inoculations need to occur. And certainly if they don't, then next year's budget will reflect the fact that they didn't do what council
Right.
wanted them to do.
We're
I
always
think we're all
looking
in
for.
favor. Everybody doesn't have a problem moving forward with that, so.
And now for, yeah. Right. Yeah, commercial time, always looking for more volunteers.
All right. Yes, straw, I guess we'll take a straw vote. You have to call? Or just a straw vote?
Yeah.
So all in favor?
Aye,
Any opposed? No. Good, fine.
thank you. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
I believe there's 10 resolutions? 10 resolutions. Any, Mr. Roman?
On the resolution for authorizing Sean as a purchasing agent, I'm assuming this resolution only applies to you, and in the unlikely event that we get another business administrator, he will not, even though he may be qualified from a previous town, would he automatically have that same bid threshold?
No, I hope I'm not going anywhere.
No, you didn't get that.
No,
May
the
I
memo.
hear him?
I think you're good for at least 6 more.
it applies to myself with my QPA license. We were alerted by the state, even though we had done a similar resolution in January of 2012. Back then I was taking the test, and we had increased it to 26 to 36 pending successful completion of the exam. The state has informed us that we really should be doing this every January. It's just kind of a housekeeping thing. They're asking around the state, all the towns to kind of do every year with the professional resolutions at the reorg. So next year, you'll probably see a similar resolution on the reorganization.
So then this has to be approved every year?
That's what the state's asking.
Okay.
It's not binding, but they, in the past, some towns have done it, some haven't. They're coming up on Thursday to do what's called a PAYCO audit. They're just going to look at what we call our AA302. It has to do with our affirmative action compliance with bids. In his letter, he said, you know what, it's good practice to just do this every year, so start doing it every year.
I have more.
Any other questions?
Well, on other resolutions, I
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
plenty.
You're up.
On the resolution for the refuse container, that's a revision to increase 560 more 96-gallon containers. Why the increase?
This was more of a housekeeping issue. Me and Sherry had caught it. Back in November, if you recall, we were kind of under the gun to get those cans out and start service on December 2nd. And I had given kind of almost a straw poll or an inquiry to council to find out if that was okay. This is the resolution referring back to that inquiry at the time. We needed to increase those containers. As I said at the time, we had too many 65s and not enough 96s. Again, it was an inexact science. It's very difficult to determine with our population and the amount of line items exactly how many we're going to want for 65s and how many we wanted for 96s. So at that time, we were certainly under the gun a little bit to try to get the appropriate cans out. This resolution, reflects that housekeeping issue from late November. Speaking with Sherry, we're trying to close the books from last year, and this resolution we needed to memorialize that inquiry.
And how many 96s are we going to be having in storage?
96 is worse. Even with that amount, there's more of a demand for 96s than 65s. Currently, our 65s, I believe our inventory is about 500 right now. We're pretty confident that we're going to be able to move most of them, if not, when we put them in the parks. So we're not really that out of balance with them, but there was a higher demand for the 96. In fact, as you've heard, there's demands for extra 96s. People like to have 2 or 3 of them, and that's part of the ordinance. I'm asking Mr. Simrau's office currently to take a look at, and I was hoping to bring it to council tonight. I would anticipate that discussion probably the 11th or the 25th of February.
So how many are we anticipating to keep in inventory of each size?
I like having about 300 to 500 of the 65s. I'd like eventually to get about 200 of the 96s. We're nowhere near that number right now. As we're coming in, we're swapping out. We're very happy when people are saying, "Hey, I don't want my 96. Come give me a 65." So we're nip and tuck right now with the 96s. Everybody's being served out there right now, so there's no one not being served. But the 96s are a little bit more than we anticipated. I don't want to go on a spending spree at this point and do another order. I'd rather see where things shake out.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Yes. Mr.
I
Mayor?
can tell you that we've only really had it, although because they show up on my Facebook page, there haven't been that many people who have requested additional cans. I would have to say less than 50 in terms of people who can't fit all of their garbage in that enormous can, and I can't get down my driveway when I have all the cars
That's tough.
in the driveway. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. And to the extent that someone actually really does need another can, we will figure out a way to get them the can. We're not here to not collect someone's garbage. And so we will do everything that we can to make sure that ultimately everyone's sanitation needs are taken care of.
Yeah, I didn't fill mine up halfway, did I? Was there, one of the trucks are out? Is one of the trucks are out, or?
Sean?
Sean?
There was a problem with
saw-
one of the trucks. There was an accident that occurred at the transfer station. Is that truck been returned to service at this point?
Yeah, we never lost service on that. It's more.
Okay, I
cosmetic
thought I saw them
damage.
this morning taking them by hand. I'm saying, it looked like they were working.
Well, there is, you mean on the large cans?
Yeah, they were picking them up, I thought, not with the one-armed bandit I saw on Mount Olive Road.
I'll look into that.
And I felt bad. I said, I thought one truck was out, so I saw them putting them in the back, and I was like, wow.
What was it, a regular packer?
Yeah, that's what it looked like, because I would notice the difference, but yeah.
Today's what, Tuesday? It might have been.
I just was
heavy day
curious,
on
I
one of the
felt bad, I
routes
thought
or,
one was out, and I said, boy, that's tough to get the garbage out of those things.
Yeah, no, I'll look into it, because
Just-
we're currently getting, we're in the process of having the rear loading packers have those small
Yeah.
arms like we discussed, because our goal is hopefully by the end of this winter is to not have anybody lifting anything.
Yeah, right.
Because, workers' comp
Yeah.
costs, so we're well underway in that process.
Mayor?
Yeah, my wife just texted me, 37-24 Mount Olive boys basketball over Sparta at halftime.
Wow, congratulations, that's great.
Whoa, way to go.
Number 1 seed in Morris County, by the way.
Wow,
Yay. Good news.
doing well. Yes, Ms. Blair.
I just want to say it's interesting to, the first week that they came by with the new Packers, or the new garbage trucks, even at my house, everybody had their recycling can was a little too close to the new garbage can, and most of the recycling cans got knocked over. Next week, they were a few feet apart. Now, if you drive down the street, you'll see one on one end of the driveway, one on the other end. There's like plenty of room. But my grandson and I, it's like when the truck's coming down on Monday morning, we'd like run to the windows and we watch them zoop, zoop, zoop.
That's pretty neat, yeah.
I know, it's like they're really good at it. It's like absolutely incredible. So it's good to see it's working rather well.
Anything else on the resolutions? Old business? Mr. Roman?
John, what's the status of the solar panels for the parking lot?
That is tied up in litigation. That is the last I was informed by Administrator Benani at the county. Their subcontractors, the solar company and then the finance company that backs them, they are in argument over a bond issue. And don't ask me what the details are.
Right, I remember seeing that. I just want to know if there's nothing new. It's still in the
There's
same
nothing
state.
new. We're part of phase 2, and it's our expectation that those bonds have already been put out there, that if and when this ever gets resolved, that money is still available. I think the phase 3, Mayor, they had said they were not going to go ahead with. But from what I understand, we were part of phase 2. So hopeful someday. I don't know how long this litigation will take. Litigations normally do not last. They're not a short period of time. So unless there's some resolution, I don't know if Jeff, have you guys got anything or no?
I haven't heard anything about it. I can follow up.
I'm not terribly confident it's ever going to happen.
So is there any thoughts as to us going ahead and doing, getting our own contractor?
No, certainly not until the resolution of the litigation. It would be silly for us to undertake even the thought of moving forward with a project that ultimately could be funded 100% by the county. So we'll wait and see what happens with the county litigation. Ultimately, if it doesn't happen, we can revisit the issue. But I think based upon where we are in terms of solar power generation, it's probably not cost effective for us to undertake that.
So we're currently under contract with them.
Yeah, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Yeah, I agree with the mayor. At this stage of the game, we've gotten no negatives back from the freeholders that said that this is not going to go through. I mean, if I'm looking at something, I'm saying, okay, it's a no cost to us and it's going to save us electricity. My bigger concern is Coneville North, which we can't get anything done with, and that would have been bringing us in cash revenue. So I'm more concerned with what's going to finally happen there than I am what's going to happen out in the parking lot.
Yeah, you have to understand also that with respect to Coneville North, when the environmental study was done, there were problems with the cap. In order to move forward with that project, the DEP was requiring the township to take responsibility for the maintenance of that cap going forward. Without that cap being fixed first, the township was not in a position to ultimately undertake that responsibility. So currently, Sincarfa is doing additional studies and is in dialogue with the DEP to try and attempt to resolve that issue. I don't disagree with Councilman Perkins. Ultimately, I believe it was someplace between $300,000 and $350,000 that we were going to see in revenue per year, which would be huge in terms of our ability to, again, look at where we stand in terms of tax decreases if that revenue actually was realized. So we sit on the sideline right now while Sincarfa is dealing with the DEP, recognizing that we're not going to take an environmental position with respect to the cap on the landfill until we're sure that ultimately our liability is capped, or at least we understand what our liability might be for maintenance of that cap.
Anyone else? Yeah, Mr. Levin.
For old business?
We're still on old business.
I just want to thank Mr. Kenny for sending out the letter regarding the proposed legislation for the bear containers being mandated, and I just wanted to say that after the article appeared in the Mount Olive Chronicle, I did get a call from a group that's, animal rights type thing, and it was a very interesting phone call, and the woman who called me is actually working very closely with Mr. Lesniak, Senator Lesniak, to get this bill through. And so I got some very interesting history on it, and I guess out in the Midwest and stuff, they use these all the time, and they were actually, she was surprised to find out that our sanitation was in-house. And she goes, oh, that does have a different impact. I said, yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I did find out was that some of the bear-proof containers, not all of them have the latch on the top. They have to get out manually. It was funny because one of the emails going back and forth says, why can't they just make a can that is, when the arm squeezes aside, it pops up? And she calls me, she goes, they did. That's what they have now. So she is going to speak to him and talk in terms of an exemption where years from now, once we needed to replace the cans, if we started to phase them in at that time, so we wouldn't have the financial burden. So I thought that was excellent that somebody who's actually working with him on this bill had called me, and thanks to all the information Mr. Kenny had supplied to us, I was able to, really let her know what our concerns are, issues. So even if it does move forward, there's probably a pretty good chance that, we'd be able to phase it in at some time and not get hit with this huge burden. But they were totally unaware. They were thinking in terms of the bigger communities where, like, Waste Management, they were in contact with all the big companies, said, oh yeah, no problem, we could phase that in, not thinking that a community like ours that has it in-house, it's a huge, huge financial burden. So it was it was excellent conversation with her.
Personally, I think it's a very short-sighted piece of legislation,
Yeah.
because if you decrease the amount of food that bears can get from garbage cans, where are they going to get food from?
You and me.
Yeah.
No, I don't know the answer to that question, but that doesn't solve the bear problem.
Right.
No.
It just
Puts it off.
pushes the bear problem someplace else,
You're right.
I actually asked.
7-Eleven.
whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Small pets.
Yeah, well,
Oh, luckily
no,
mine
they don't.
aren't small.
I actually asked
That's
that
how
question.
we can solve
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
cat problem.
Oh, you're in
We
trouble
don't
now.
have a cat problem anymore.
It was interesting because when we talked about that, the whole idea is the bears have become basically lazy, and there's plenty of food for them out in the wild, but they just don't bother going to look for it because they have the sanitation schedules in every town, and they just walk up and down the streets. And the idea is to
You get
get
tired
them.
of deer every night. Lasagna, other stuff is just as good, so.
Yeah, they got all kinds of good stuff. It's like a smorgasbord, just up and down the street.
Any other old business? Mr. Roman?
Well, it might be new.
Okay. Old, new, old.
It's mediocre business.
Okay.
In our packet is a license approval for a vendor for an ice cream truck. Do we have any interest in keeping the number of ice cream vendors? It just seems like, unless they're replacing, if we approve, let's say 5 or 6, everybody gets hurt.
I think there's only one.
No,
There's
but
two.
There's two.
There's two.
There's two.
Right, but the two that are applying, it's not a renewal. These are new, right?
No.
Is that Osborne on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's every year, he's
Oh,
been
he
here
is every year.
forever.
Is that Marty?
Marty.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marty.
He's been around forever.
So it's just a renewal?
Yeah.
Okay, and then there goes my questions in.
Yep.
New business? Anyone from the public? Okay, if not, I have a motion to adjourn the public meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Yeah. What's that? Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay. We'll open the, where's my other thing here? Okay. Michelle, could you open up the public meetings notice?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Roll call.
Mr. Amianda,
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Ferrante,
Here.
Mrs. Labow.
Here.
Mr. Perkins.
Here.
Mr. Roman.
Here.
Mr. Nacastro.
Here.
Mr. Mania.
Please note, Mr. Mania is away on vacation, and also note that the CFO Sherry is here, Sean, the business administrator, the mayor, and Jeff Pasnick, the attorney. Ms. LeBeau, you have a presentation, a resolution to read, I
Yes.
believe. Resolution of the Township of Mount Olive honoring Carol Gurnett for her years of service, commitment, and dedication to the Township of Mount Olive.
I just want to ask Carol, would you like to come up to the podium? It's funny because I always knew Carol by Carol. Didn't recognize your last name, and I can't believe you're retiring on us already. So, the resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Mount Olive honoring Carol Gurnett for her years of service, commitment, and dedication to the Township of Mount Olive. Whereas Carol Gurnett has served the Township of Mount Olive since April of 1988. And whereas Carol Gannett began her employment as a part-time clerk typist in the health department, and whereas while working in the health department, Carol Gannett assisted in the flu and rabies clinics, and whereas Carol Gannett went to full-time status as deputy registrar of vital statistics in February of 1997, and whereas Carol Gannett then transferred to the construction code office in July of 2008, and whereas while serving the Township of Mount Olive, Carol Gannett was always a very capable, thoughtful, and caring employee, not only to her coworkers, but also to the residents of Mount Olive and other members of the public that she dealt with every day. And whereas aside from her great work ethic, organizational skills, and efficiency, Carol Gannett always had a wonderful sense of humor on the job, and whereas Carol Gannett has retired from employment with the Township of Mount Olive on December 4, 2013, and whereas Carol Gannett and her service will certainly be missed by the residents of Mount Olive Township, and whereas during her over 25 years of service to the Township of Mount Olive, Carol Gannett earned the respect and admiration of her colleagues for her public service and dedication to the residents of Mount Olive, of Township of Mount Olive, and whereas the Township of Mount Olive wishes Carol Gannett the best of luck on her retirement. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Township Council of the Township of Mount Olive, County of Morris, and State of New Jersey, that Carol Gannett is hereby recognized and honored for her dedication, service, commitment to the residents of the Township of Mount Olive in appreciation for her career contributions to the Township of Mount Olive. Thank you. I apologize, Mayor, you should have been over here. I should have had you come over here as well. I apologize.
You'll get a kiss.
Oh, thanks very much. Thank you.
Special in your retirement?
Well, I'm going to Bermuda to see my new grandson.
Very nice, congratulations. If you need a traveling partner.
Oh, be good to go right now, but,
Yes.
yeah, they're on the beach, so. A lovely spot for you. Oh, thank you. Beautiful over there. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, in the middle, okay. Okay. You got it. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Oh, good. 2 months. 2 months? Yay. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. On behalf of the council and myself, thank you for all your work and enjoy your retirement. Hopefully you go play someplace warm.
Thank you. Try.
Enjoy. All right, we need approval of minutes for the workshop and the public closed session and public meeting for January 14th. Mr. Amianda?
I make a motion for approval of minutes of previous.
One second, I'm sorry.
Are we going to take a roll call resolution? Do we want to do it all at the same time? I know, kind of out of order, but.
On the resolution.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for the retirement of Miss Carol.
Second.
Roll call, I guess? Yep.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Leibau?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Okay, now we can have a motion to accept the minutes, Mr. Amianda.
Okay. I make a motion for approval of minutes of previous meetings, the workshop and then public meetings held on January 14, 20.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. We have 13 pieces of correspondence. Does anyone have any questions on those? If not, we have 4 ordinances for second reading. Ordinance number 1-2014, bond ordinance providing for various park improvements in and by the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, New Jersey, appropriating $236,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $224,200 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof. Mr. Ferrante?
Sure, I'd like to move for adoption and final passage, ordinance number 1-2014.
Second.
Right.
Roll call?
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Ordinance number 1-2014 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required. Ordinance number 2-2014, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, to amend Chapter 196, Part 5, Article 13, Section 196-74.1, entitled Connection Fees to Bud Lake Sanitary Sewer System, to be incorporated into Chapter 196 of the Mount Olive Township Code. Ms. LeBeau?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Almost had a sneeze, I'm sorry. I'm move for adoption and final passage, ordinance number 2-2014.
Second?
Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta go back here first.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to this one, I think, to this time.
Okay, you won.
Yeah, I'll go right where. On the ordinance number 2, I'll open that one to the public hearing. Did anyone from the public wish to be heard on the ordinance number 2-2014? If not, close to the public and roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Now go back to number 1.
Yeah.
And on number 1-2014, I'd bypass. Anyone from the public wish to be heard on ordinance number 1-2014? If not, close to the public. Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Ordinance number 3 no, I'm sorry.
So you want to say, open the hearing for the public?
Yes. I open the hearings to the public on ordinance number 3-2014, an ordinance of the Township Council of Township of Mount Olive, amending ordinance number 32-2013, which established salaries for mayor, council, department head, supervisory personnel, and employees to the township clerk's office. Does anyone from the public, I open to the public. Anyone wish to be heard? If not, close the public hearing. Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 3-2014.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Just one question. Did you say 32-2013 or 31? Because I thought you said, I don't know if we need to.
It's 31-2013.
Yeah, I just in case, because it's verbatim. Yes.
31-2013.
Thank you, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 4. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go down the
Yes,
bottom.
I know. Ordinance number 3-2014 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. Thank you. I open to the hearing to the public on ordinance number 4-2014, titled An Ordinance to the Township Council of Mount Olive, Township amending ordinance number 38-2012, entitled Fees and Rates for Off-Duty Police Officers. Does anyone wish to be heard? No one from the public? Mr. Roman?
I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 4-2014.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebaw?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Ordinance number 4-2014 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. Okay, we have no ordinances for first reading. There are 10 resolutions. Does anyone wish to have any move to non-consent? If not, Mr. Ferrante, would you move the resolutions, please?
Sure, I'd like to move consent resolutions number 2 through 10.
Second.
To the public? Yeah. Anyone from the public? Portion of consent, anyone have anything? No. Okay. Roll call, please. Council comments or anything on those? No? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebaw?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. We're on to consent motions. Mr. Perkins?
Yes, Mr. Vice President, I move for approval of the peddler's permit for Martin Osborne and for the bill list.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebaw?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes on number 1 and yes on number 2, but abstain on check number 64496. Administrative reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one item tonight. Earlier today, I circulated a memo just regarding where we're at in our snow response for this year. As we know, it's been a rather harsh winter. Before you, I had provided the numbers going into 2014 here. It seems much worse than it really is. The December storms were part of the 2013 budget, certainly incorporated some extra spending, especially in terms of overtime as well as salt. So it hasn't had the impact on 2014 like when they first requested the numbers from Sherry and Finance. I expected them to be a little bit worse, but realizing we're still very early in the new year, we have 2 more months of hopefully not this, but just wanted to give some information to council to show exactly where we're at. We feel we're still within our budgetary targets for the year as to what we've submitted. So it's been a rough winter so far, but we feel that we're managing it, and we should stay within budget even with the storms the way they've been. Oh, one other item. We implemented the new snow response in late December after our initial forays, and the response so far. We have weekly staff meetings every Monday. DPW will be from foreman on up. We meet every week, and we've been going over the postmortems on the snowstorms, and I'm very satisfied with the way they've done it. They're very happy with the way the delegation of powers. I speak to Tim every day. Tim's extremely happy with the structure, and the guys have been doing a great job, and so is Timmy and the other commanders. So so far the response we've gotten from the citizens has been overwhelmingly good. There's obviously every snowstorm there's always some naysayers and areas that just aren't perfect, but overall I think we're a lot better than we were last year.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say that I see it's been going very well. It's been a tough year because of the snow the way it's coming down. It seems like we keep getting these half inches and an inch and an inch. It's just a crazy thing keeps packing down. It makes it so
happens on
difficult
weekends,
for
which
them.
impacts the
And on the
budget, yeah.
weekends, which makes it really difficult. But they've been doing a really great job. Ms. LeBeau?
I just want to also say that the first storm that we implemented the new system, I tend to get a lot of calls from residents when there's different issues. It's the first time, it was great, when I would, reach out to Tim. He knew exactly, he said, oh, they're 2 streets over, they'll be there in 10 minutes. And I called back, I told the person, okay, they'll be there in 10 minutes. And they sent me a text, oh my God, they were just here. It was like really cool. They kind of like really knew where everybody was at each step. And I have to say, this last storm, I didn't get one single call. I didn't get any emails. I got nothing from anybody. So it was phenomenal to go through a storm and not have any complaints or where are they, when are they going to get here. It's the first time in 10 years that it happened. So that was fantastic. So good plan. Thank you.
Mr. Roman?
Sean, is there any thought into putting GPS into the plow trucks and then being able to live monitor where they've gone?
I would love to. I put out an RFQ in fall of would have been 2012, just for that fact that we can have snow. We use our OEM room if it's a bad storm down to that police headquarters that we can track. And the big thing is you can get back to residents saying, it hasn't been a plow here all night. Well,
Right, because
done a
my
few
thought,
times.
my thought would have been not only for us to have it, but then we could simultaneously put, so when somebody, we can get feedback from residents, and as far as if, you know, they're home, they could see live that, oh yeah, they took care of my street, I'm gonna feel.
I had sticker shock when I put out the RFQ.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was almost just under $40,000 for the cost on it. That was November of 2012. My recommendation at the time to the mayor was to not go with it. I would love to have the technology, but the wireless carrying cost is what really
Okay.
bumps up the cost on it.
That's what did it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, you also have to be careful in terms of the type of information that you put out during a snowstorm, because snow removal is a science based upon a number of different factors, including the temperature, the type of event that we're having, whether it's snow, wet snow, light snow, ice, and the removal is somewhat systematic in terms of how they're going to deal with the town. So we're always looking at different options in terms of our snowfall response. And I'm quite honest with you, I'm not terribly happy with where we're at right now. So I've directed Sean to take a look at a brine system. Our DPW director is not a big fan of brine. I seem to anecdotally favor brine, and I've asked Sean to take a look at it and report back as to what other towns feel is appropriate in terms of pre-storm preparation, in terms of what we're putting down the roads. So we're going to continue to fine-tune our snow response. As I said, I'm not particularly happy with where we're at right now. I'm not going to say I'm unhappy, especially in a year where we've had so many snowfalls. But I think that we can still do things better, and we'll continue to hone it. And I would say overall, the response, other than every storm I get Smithtown Road, every storm, Smithtown Road. And I'm directing you to let DPW know that I don't want to get any more reports out of Smithtown Road. If any road is going to be clear, Smithtown Road is going to be clear. So we'll continue to hone it, we'll get better at it. The cost of obviously of the salt is extremely expensive currently. I don't think our snow response is any worse than anybody else's. I think there's room for improvement, and we'll, like I said, we'll continue to work on it.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, Mr. President, Jill Daggett from Recreation had been approached by a vendor in regard to a possible revenue source involving Bud Lake, and she'll brief council on it tonight and get some feedback.
Okay, great. Well, we always have a request out for program ideas and instructors and such. And one proposal that we received was for offering water skiing lessons on Bud Lake this summer. Obviously not now when it's frozen. So in order to do that, this particular vendor has asked if he could secure his dock to our existing dock when it's time to have it in the water. He would provide us with all the usual insurances and waivers and hold harmless agreements that's been run past the risk manager, and he would comply with all those kinds of requests. He would have all the equipment. There would be a pre-skilled swim test for the participants. They would have life jackets, etc. The lifeguards cannot respond because they can't get to the middle of the lake or the far side of the lake, but they will, follow all the boating safety regulations, having the red flag on the back of the boat for the tow line. They'll have a spotter. They'll all be trained in first aid and CPR, and obviously be able to contact dispatch for any emergencies that they need to have addressed. So I just want to give you a heads up that we're looking at doing this water skiing lesson program for this summer at the beach. Something new and different and exciting for the beach. Any questions about?
Are we going to ask for any kind of restrictions as far as whether he'll have the right of way during his instructions? Is a certain part of the lake?
He's going to be, well, his dock would be on the side that we don't use for swimming, obviously. And so he'd be restricted to the times on the lake that, boats are allowed to be on the lake, which is basically daylight hours. He can have his lessons happening beyond the point that we have the beach open, because the beach right now is on relatively restricted season. It's about 10 weeks long and 5 or 6 hours a day. Certainly it's available to do water skiing beyond those parameters. And there would, of course, be money coming back to the Recreation Department for doing those lessons.
And how much do we anticipate?
I have still to finish negotiating that. Once I want to get approval that we can go ahead and move forward, then the next step is then figuring out what that compensation would be.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm in favor of the proposal, not because of the revenue which is going to be generated, but because it's always been my position that Bud Lake is a natural resource that the town has underutilized for years. And I've always wanted to draw additional usage of the lake. I'm not so much concerned about other boaters being out there because there are boat rules in terms of where you need to be. Accidents can happen, hopefully none will, but safety has to be used at all times. My bigger concern, although as I said I'm in favor of it, is the noise that will be generated through the program. And there are people who obviously live around the lake. And I think that the benefit to the community outweighs the noise that would occur. I mean, I really don't know, other than on weekend hours, how much usage there will be. I guess there'll be some. But I think it's worth trying, seeing how it works out, seeing what type of complaints that we have in terms of traffic and noise as a result of the program.
Mr. Rome?
Just to piggyback on the mayor's concern, I think one thing we should definitely ask is what kind of boat, because there are certain boats that are a little bit louder than others.
We don't have, as far as I know, we don't have any restrictions as to what size or loudness of a boat that can be on Bud Lake. The only ordinance that I see on the books is that there's a restriction for jet skis on weekends and holidays. That is the only restriction that we have. If you can get it into the shallow water that we have for access to Bud Lake, then you can operate the boat. I haven't seen any other kind of restrictions. Matter of fact, boating on Bud Lake has decreased dramatically in the last 10 years or so. So there's maybe 2 boats and a couple of sailboats any given day on the lake. It is not significant. It is not Lake Apopka. It is very small amount of usage of anybody's boats on the lake. We don't have any maximum capacity of boats on the water that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I think in furtherance of Mr. Roman's comments that you should get some feedback from the contractor in terms of what he's prepared to put out on the lake, what type of decibel level the boats will produce, so that council can analyze the information going forward.
Sure.
Yep, Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I can tell you that I agree with you, Jill. There's not a lot of people, maybe the largest natural lake in the state of New Jersey, but it surely isn't a long ride, from one end to the other, if you're being pulled by a ski. One of the most beautiful sights I can see in the 28 years I've been here is right around sunset during the summer, and there's actually somebody out there water skiing. Yeah. And it's a beautiful sight. So I am fully in support of anything that you can bring that will utilize the lake, and understanding, fuel and spills, and I'm sure you'll make sure that all the safety precautions are taken care of. The more utilization we can get out of this lake, the happier I think the entire residents are going to be, and it's just going to make summer life a lot more enjoyable for the residents here.
Ms. LeBeau?
Just have one question, Jill. He's planning on docking his boat there. It's not going to be in and out, like...
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I was just concerned about if you took it out and brought it to another lake and brought it back.
No, that's going to stay attached to our dock for the season.
Okay.
Again, I have not negotiated with him what the season is. If he's talking Memorial Day through Labor Day, which is a little longer than what our beach season is, or many boats start going in the water May 1st. So we have to kind of, again, I want to get a feel from the council what your input was, and then I'll go back to him and say, okay, now let's really flesh out what the proposal is.
And I know it might sound like a strange question, is the boat going to come in or out? But if it is coming in and out, depending on where it goes and it comes back, you got to make sure they wash it, because it could be bringing them milfoil or curly pond
Right.
weed back into our lakes. So that's why I asked that question, because I know
Okay.
it sounds strange. Yeah, we're treating. We'll take care of it.
Anyone else?
Hey, well, you're right to put parasailing.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I think it's a great
Oh.
idea. The more people on that beach just to show activity there would be so nice to see
Mr. Rubin
things
wants to be
happening
the
all the
first
time.
parasailing.
Parasailing, where would you
Yeah.
You can end up right on your building.
That's how Alex.
You need to get on the road.
I could just see the headline right now.
Yeah. Alex wants to go from his apartment on Oakwood Village and just parasail across over the mountain and land on the lake.
Thank you, Ms. Daggett. Anything else? Anything else, Sean?
Thank you, Jill. That's a great program. That's
Good idea.
excellent.
Old business. No old business? Do we see any new business? Any new business? Legal matters, Jeff.
Just one item tonight, just an update on the Cobblestone property. Our office recently had a meeting with the Lewis Berger Group and Boswell Engineering, along with several township officials and professionals, to discuss the property and our ability to develop it for affordable housing units. We just wanted to let council know that for the next meeting, we'll have on the agenda 2 proposals from both Lewis Berger Group and Boswell Engineering for council's review for additional work that needs to be performed on the property as we continue the process of ensuring that the property is suitable for affordable housing units.
Very good. Thank you. Council reports. If we put them in order here, let's see. Mr. Amian, the Board of Education, anything?
Yes, Board of Education met yesterday, January 27, 2014, at 6:30 p.m. at Mount Olive Middle School. Dr. Reynolds, Superintendent of Schools, gave a report about pathway to excellency in schools. It is a 6-year academic plan that sets high expectations of students. At the end of the plan and on graduation, students will be expected to read and enter colleges. That is actually a mandatory educational program which is going to be introduced in New Jersey from the New Jersey Department of Education. Also at that meeting, the board approved a plan to authorize the Mount Olive Township Police Department to conduct a canine sweep of the Mount Olive Township High School as guided by the Morris County Prosecutor's directives. So our police department will be getting a memo from the Board of Education about that. Then the other small point, the other small discussion was about the board approved a resolution to fill a vacancy on the board. And there was also a discussion about a reduction in workforce, but no decision was made about it because the board had brought up idea of reducing the aids, school aids, because of the economy, because of the insurance benefits. The board was thinking about cutting the hours so that most of the aides don't qualify for the health program. But because the board has to negotiate with the EMO, the union, they couldn't move, so they put it off, and that discussion will come up in somewhere at the end of June or something like that. And that is, those are the most.
Thank you.
Mr. Ferranti, Environmental, Lake, and Library.
I don't have anything.
Nothing. Okay. Ms. LeBeau, Seniors and Economic and TNR.
Economic Development Committee meets in 2 weeks, and already talked about TNR, and didn't make it to the senior meeting this past week, but I'm planning on going to the next one.
Thank you. Mr. Perkins, Safety and MOTV.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. No safety committee meeting yet. I did speak to Fred DeToro from OEM. Right now, they're waiting on Mr. Willie Cerrone to come back from vacation. My understanding is that Willie may end up as the chair, the non-voting member. We'll still have to get the committee together and see. I'll report back to the council. We actually started this committee going back when we talked about the issues we were having with the volunteer EMS folks, specifically Bud Lake. I'm not sure that the safety committee is viable, nor continues to be necessary, as most of the OEM functions are handled through the Office of Administration and the Office of the Mayor. So once we do have our meeting and we get together with those folks, I'll report back to the council on what the group's feeling is, and then the council can make a determination. The council set up the committee. The council can always abolish it. The MOTV committee liaison, I managed to speak to Ms. Pignataro briefly, as well as Scott Gaskell from our IT. Still a little disappointed. I'm watching the Channel 21 on Cablevision, which is the one that I have. I talked to Chris Palma, I guess his name is, from the school. Chris had just received the November taping, and we had originally been all watching the pre-September 11th, which, if I'm going to be watching pre-September 11th in December, I might as well have the Yule log on, because the idea was to have this thing and to have it updated. Scott was going to ensure that he had made appropriate copies of the discs in digital format, got them back to Lisa Pignataro, and then we need to schedule a meeting with the school, as well as, I'm assuming, Gary Shaw from Cablevision. Now we're watching Morristown has had their council meetings on. This was supposed to be specifically Mount Olive's television station. It was dedicated to us on the basis of granting the 15-year franchise. So we definitely I have to meet with Cablevision to find out what's going on. But the plan is that once we have a tape, such as tonight, the next day the tape would be presented to IT. IT would get it digitally up to YouTube, make a disc, get that back to our special projects coordinator. That should then go over to the school, and hopefully by the weekend, I would hope, no later than the weekend, our residents ought to be able to see what we did that week. So we're going to kind of try to work through that, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Mr. Roman, Open Space and Recreation.
Nothing to report on open space. On recreation, the existing structure has been removed from the site in order to make way for Mount Playmore. And unfortunately, donations have not come in to the level as expected. Hopefully they'll start picking up. Restaurant Week is in full effect. Started yesterday, and it runs to the 31st. Restaurants that are participating include Enzo's, Branda's, Applebee's, and Corner Pub. And on a somewhat recreation-y note, pay close attention to this week's Super Bowl, especially around halftime. It is my understanding that the Mount Olive High School band will be performing in the halftime show. So that's going to be exciting to watch. And on a side note onto that, pregame, my high school band will be playing at the pregame, so I might actually tune in before kickoff. And that is all I have.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Thank you. I have Board of Health and Legislative. Board of Health, we had the reorg meeting, I believe it was on the 15th, I believe. So it was just my first meeting and introduction to it, so I don't have much to say right now on that, but I will as I go along. Legislative meeting, I do have one scheduled to meet with legislative people and get together, so I will follow up with that. Mr. Maney is not here. Public portion, does anyone from the public wish to? Seeing none, any council comments? Mr. Mayor?
Sorry, I know it's council comment period, but I didn't speak during the administrative portion. Just wanted to alert everyone that February 16th, Weiss Supermarkets is opening. March 1, Robote will be opening their doors. Robote is a large fragrance and flavor manufacturer similar to Givaudan. They're opening in the trade zone. I'd like to thank the Mount Olive Chamber of Commerce and Longhorn for hosting the Mayor's Breakfast, which was a huge success. And I have 52 seconds left, 62-55 Mount Olive over Sparta.
There you go.
Mount Olive, as I said, get the #1 seed in the Morris County Tournament, so very excited about that.
Good for them. Thank you. Any council comments? Mr. Amianda?
I thank Sheriff for excellent presentation of the mayor's 2014 budget presentation. That was excellent.
I agree with Mr. Almianda, Sherry. Excellent presentation. And Mayor, did you notice that over at Sam's Club Staples section, the dollar store, their signs went up, and the martial arts?
No, I did know that they had filled a number of those spaces,
They-
Lamar Company.
Yeah, they filled 3 spaces, and yesterday they put up the signs, and the signs on the front of the buildings for the martial arts and the Dollar Tree. is upward. I forget what there's another store going in there.
I would
The
think that
third.
now Mount Olive has every dollar store there.
Yes, every
Yeah, go to
every
3 of them, you
dollar
can
store.
spend $3.
But it's really exciting because there was, I think, 5 vacancies there, so there's only going to be 2 left. So that's really great news
It
to
is,
have
get
that
'em all
in
filled
there.
up.
So yeah,
It'll look
get it all
nice. Yeah.
get all filled up and more people coming in shopping. So that's what I wanted to say.
Anyone else? Council comments? If not, motion to Mr. Roman.
Not necessarily a comment, but if we could have Sherry, your presentation emailed to us, and I'd also request that it be made available on the town's website.
Already took care of it on the website, Alex. If you'd like, I can email it to you too.
Yes,
Should have
please.
it on MOTV, Mr. Perkins.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Aye.